it trying to do too much, or is it just bad luck?
You could say he's trying to do too much, for sure. At that point, he kind of wrapped up, just take the sack right there, and we're in field goal range. So, it's kind of that mindset of just live to fight another day. Obviously, I'm trying to make a play, trying to get the ball out to Josh and not take a sack. And, you're not thinking you're going to fumble the ball, but it happens. So there's areas to learn from and improve on.
I asked that because, 3 plays prior, looks like you're bottled up and you run for a first down. So there's some good with trying to extend plays, and then there's that. How do you find the fine line?
Yeah, like you said, there's always a fine line. I'm always going to try and fight for everything and try and make a play when sometimes there's nothing there. But I think in that situation, he kind of wrapped up. Just give it up. Just go down, take the sack, and obviously the worst case scenario in that situation is a turnover. Losing points and not being able to end the half with a field goal there.
Jordan, what couple of games happened right after the offense was really clicked in the second half against the Steelers? Why do you think it kind of changed like that in the done?
Yeah, no, I think it all comes down to just making plays, and like I said before, just executing. You look back at that Steelers game, and I think we were executing at a very high level. Everybody around us making plays, focused on the details, and we took advantage of a lot of the looks that they're giving us. And I think we're right there. We're right there as an offense, and it just comes down to those small details that are, I think, holding us back. But we have everything we need on offense. We got the right players. Obviously, we've got some injuries, but we still got the right mindset. We just got to find ways to focus more, hone in on those little details, and execute.
What's the level of frustration after how these last 2 weeks have gone offensively?
Yeah, it's frustrating. Like I said, post game, it's always frustrating. I think, if you have a bad, performance on offense and you win the game, it might not be as frustrating. But I think you go back and you look at the film, and there's still so many areas you look at as an offense. You're like, man, we got to clean this up. So I think you compound that with an L, and obviously the defense playing a pretty good game, and us not being able to put up points right there makes it more frustrating. And it's 2 weeks in a row. We haven't scored as many points as we need to win the game. So I think all that being said, it's frustrating, but I still think we're right there where we need to be. We just got to find ways to finish with touchdowns, limit the turnovers, finish with the ball on every drive, and we'll be where we want to be.
Jordan, a quarterback can get hot, get into a rhythm, right? Maybe we saw you complete 20 in a row. From a play caller standpoint, does the play caller also have to find a rhythm and kind of get hot as well? And what role do you guys play in helping that do that?
Yeah, I think everybody on the field has that feeling, where you can get hot and get rolling, kind of just get in the zone. So, whether that's play calling or that's player, everybody has that feeling. It definitely, it's not just, the play calls got to be perfect. We got to go out there and execute the play calls to make some of this stuff work and to flow the right way. So, I think when all those things are flowing, you got the right play call, execution's perfect, that's when you're at your best as offense, and it feels like, you're unstoppable. And then obviously, whether it's play call, whether it's lack of execution, penalties, just anything, it will kind of make it feel like, oh, we're not flowing, we're not in that zone, and things aren't going as well. But I think we're right there where we need to be able to get back into that mode.
Jordan, you and Elton, you didn't have like a full off season of practice and work at that center guard relationship. Now he goes down. How difficult has it been throughout the season to try to have some of that chemistry and connection with you and the offensive line because of all the injuries and how it's been up and down?
Yeah, it's always tough. Injuries are very tough. Like you said, losing Elton, the guy who's been our center is tough, especially at that position where, like you said, me and him have been getting all the reps together and things like that. So, it'll be a quick turnaround for Sean to come in and be able to, get rolling and us get on the same page with just that exchange. But, you look at it, I think he did a great job coming to the game on Monday. Obviously, I think all of our exchanges were pretty clean, so we just got to keep building on that. But it's always, like I said before, that next man up mentality. I think Sean's done a great job of staying ready, wherever he's been called at this season, and it'll be no different for him at center.
Jordan, speaking of that, Jordan, I honestly have no idea the answer to this, which is why I'm asking. Do you have to meet with the center to make sure you're on the same page, or what is that relationship like getting ready for a Sunday?
Yeah, I think it always starts with the snap. So, when he comes in the game, we're going to get snaps on the side, make sure everything's feeling right. And then as far as just communication and things like that go, we'll get another week this week to kind of, hone in on all those things. Obviously, we'll be on, silent count with the away game. So that plays a whole other, factor in Sean's thought process, being under center. So obviously he's got a lot on his plate, and we'll just kind of, work through the week. But, as far as exchange, I feel like the center quarter exchange is the most important thing where we got to be dialed in on that.
Jordan, you talked about execution. I know Matt wants to stay aggressive, and he talked about that earlier today, but is that tough to just kind of balance of being aggressive versus just moving the chains, running the ball, having time to do what you need to do?
Yeah, I think it's all play predicated on what we got, what the defensive look they're giving us. But yeah, it's always about being smart, being able to move the ball. Obviously, you want to have these explosive plays. You want to get off the field quick, put up points fast. But sometimes, the defense is making us drive the ball down the field, and we got to stay patient with that. We got to be able to drive and finish some of those longer drives in the end zone with touchdowns. Obviously, I think we haven't been able to do that the past couple weeks, and we'll find a way to do that.
Everyone wants to be an analyst on social media. I don't have your playbook. I don't know your progressions, play in, play out. But there are clips of guys that were open Monday night and get the ball. Did you see that when you watched the film, and how does that happen?
Yeah, I have to see exactly what clips you're talking about, what plays you're talking about. But sure, yeah, you can look at every play and find guys that are open. That could be a case. But obviously, I'm going to stay true to my reads and, play the plays, how I feel best and try and be at my best every day. And that's what I got to do for the team, for the receivers, for the tight ends, for everybody. I got to be at my best and try to find who's open. At the end of the day, we're going to block all the noise out and all the stuff that's out there and just go out, play our ball.
Yeah, one was when he took the sack. Looked like Romeo might be coming open on the corner late in the game. To Christian, looked like Wicks was coming open on the dig. Is that a progression thing? Is it just the pressure getting to you? Or
Rome was on the corner, you're saying?
Yeah, on the sack.
Or early on, or first sack of the game?
Corner or deep out, yeah.
Yeah, if you're talking about that play, we're running a play into, a cloud look, and the corner did a good job of kind of playing in between both of those. And yeah, I think by the time you turn your head, you pause the tape, yeah, the corner might be open. But by the time I got there, I felt like it was dead, and got off that one. I was trying to get backside, and that's why I felt the pocket kind of collapsing.
Jordan, how much communication is there between you and LaFleur, leading up to the game and with the game plan and, throughout the week?
Yeah, there's a lot. We communicate, I think, a good amount throughout the week of just being on the same page with the plays we got. Make sure, obviously, I feel comfortable with the plays, and Matt, obviously, they put a lot of work into the game plan to try and, give us the best schemes when we get out there on Sundays. So there's a lot of communication, throughout the week that goes into, the final game plan and just make sure everybody's on the same page.
How much more is it important to be unpredictable? Jordan, is it important to be unpredictable at times, or is it more important to do what you guys believe you can do and run well and execute for success on those ones?
Yeah, I think it always comes back down to execution, and you want to have plays called that everybody feels comfortable they can go out and execute, regardless of whatever coverage we might be getting. And obviously, I think at times, you want to be a little unpredictable and maybe come out with a play that might catch the defense off guard. But at the end of the day, we gotta run plays that are true to us and what we practice throughout training camp and OTAs and plays that everybody feels comfortable. And I feel like we do that. We just got to keep finding ways to execute those plays.
Jordan, how much does it change the picture if you're able to get 5.5 yards a carry and ground out 150 yards on the ground?
Say it again, sorry.
How much does it change the picture for you as a quarterback and the coverages you'll see if you can get 5.5 yards a carry consistently, get 150 yards a game?
Yeah, I think that might change the mindset. You get into a game, you start running the ball really well. Obviously, the defense has got to respect that. So it might change some of the coverage we're getting, things like that. But it's one of those situations you got to get in the game and kind of just see play by ear how teams react and adjust throughout the game.
Jordan, when you look at this Giants defense, they haven't stopped the run all that well, but it looks like they've got a heck of a pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
So just kind of what are your thoughts on how to get after these guys and get things back on track?
Yeah, like you said, they got a really good pass rush there. I think they got a very solid defense, and we talked about some of the stats earlier. I think they've given up a lot of explosive runs, but I think we got to come into it with the mindset that we're going to play our game. Obviously, we want to establish the run and be able to take advantage of that. But also at the same time, I want to be able to throw the ball. I think we'll be able to block their front. We just got to handle business and go play our game.
Would you like to get turned loose a little bit more, as in, I'm good enough, we're having some funks, I can get us out of them?
Definitely. I think, as a player, you always want that. You always want the pressure to be on you and to be able to, get the team out of funks. But at the end of the day, there's 11 players on that field for a reason. We got to trust everybody on the field, and players got to make plays when the ball comes your way. And you can't be out there trying to play, Superman ball and kind of do too much at times. But you just got to trust the process and take one play at a time. But I love having the ball in my hands at all times, and I love that pressure.
Jordan, when it comes to camp, Matt's been here long enough to kind of understand how that works. But how much is it incumbent on you with reading the coverage or reading the defense, and do you have the freedom to maybe not can to a run, even if maybe you should? Like, how does, because Matt basically made it sound earlier today like a lot of the runs have been you've canned to it because of the look, and that's why he's probably run the ball more than maybe even a quarterback would like.
Yeah, I think like you said, a lot of our plays are two-way plays and predicated on the look we're getting from the defense. So yeah, depending on what coverage we're getting, or depending on what the can criteria is for each play, that's what it's going into. And obviously, I'm gonna stick to the rules of the play and play things true to how I see it, what I'm seeing from the defense, and things like that.
So you're never tempted to not follow the rules?
Sometimes there's definitely times when if you think teams might be trying to disguise looks and things like that, and you kind of feel like you can get a play off, or you're kind of guessing what you think they're going to get to post snap, then yeah, sure, you're definitely tempted. But there's also times where sometimes maybe the run looks good and it's too good to be true, so you just got to can it and let it run.
I imagine more for Jordan. The unforced errors have to be aggravating. He had 2 illegal formations in big moments Monday night. How much of making sure guys are lined up right falls under your purview as a quarterback? Is that something that you play a part in that process, or is that just on the guy to make sure he's in the right spot?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everything always comes back to the quarterback. You got to make sure that the operation is always smooth and everybody's in the right spot. But that's what we talk about, is just the little details. Making sure everything's on the right page, and some of these plays are just, it's just the focus and the attention to the detail. Where it's sometimes negating some bigger plays down the field, and that's kind of it's a play here, it's a play there, but in the the end of the game, some of those plays come back to hurt us. So we just got to focus. It's on everybody. Everybody's got to do their job. Focus on doing the right thing. And if I see something, if somebody else sees something that's off, we got to correct it and fix it while we can.
Do you need to have any more conversations with guys off to the side about, hey, if the run's coming in, tight end, make sure you know what exactly to do and things like that?
Yeah, I think that all comes down to the process throughout the week. Make sure that everybody understands exactly what play calls we have, what the details, like I said, are, and if we're not doing things right in practice, we got to be able to adjust those things before we get to Sundays. It shouldn't be we get to Sundays and we're having these issues. So at the end of the day, it comes back to everybody, doing your job, honing in on the details. But yeah, there's a lot of areas that are hurting us that we can easily clean up and easily fix, and the game will be looking a little bit different.
4th and 1 at the end of the game. It sounded like they were calling out the inside zone. Did you hear that in the moment? How often in your career have you ever seen that happen? And do you still just have to execute? Do you need to take a time out when the defense knows what's coming?
Yeah, no, there's times for sure. Throughout the course of the game where the D-line might be calling out what they think the play is. So that happens a lot of times in the game, and that's not ever going to deter me from running the play. They might be guessing, like I said, but that was a play that we called on the ball a couple different times. So at the end of the day, they can hear the calls as well. So they were making a call right there, but in that 2-minute mindset where we're trying to go fast and get that first down, I got the belief in our line that we can go create a hole, that we can go get that 1 yard that we need. So it comes down to just execution, and obviously we'll look at some of the things we do, no huddle, and clean some of that stuff up so teams can't catch on to what we're doing.